Welcome to Fantasy Sports Daily, powered by FantasyGuru.com. Monday through Friday at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 a.m. Pacific. Ray Flowers breaks it all down for you from a fantasy sports perspective. Heyo! Welcome to Fantasy Sports Daily, powered by FantasyGuru.com. I am Ray Flowers. You can find me on social media as at the Ray Flowers. You can find me as well as the show rocking Monday through Friday at 12 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. We go about an hour each day. Monday is the only day of the week where it's only one of us here. It's just me today. So we'll talk all about Sunday game action. We'll go game by game. I'll throw it up on the screen what we're doing today. It's the Monday plan, and the Monday Fun Day plan is the following. Go game by game, reviewing all the Sunday action in the NFL. What happened, what didn't happen, who got hurt, who stepped forward, who failed, all that good stuff. Game by game, team by team. We'll do that here over the next hour. Remember as well that Monday through Friday on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio, Jeff Mann's Elite Sports Show was on. So that's 2 to 5. So you listen or watch this show for an hour, go over to SiriusXM, then take a break for an hour. Go over to SiriusXM and listen to Jeff's show for 3 hours. Remember, we also have Justin Fensterman and Russell Clay on Sunday nights on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio from 6 to 9 Eastern Time. So they're there reviewing Sunday action there. Jeff Mans does a TikTok video for like 5 or 6 minutes on Sunday night. We do the hour long here, and then Jeff Mans also does the 3 hours on his show today. So we review everything from all those perspectives. We also have Armando Marsal's breakdown over at FantasyGuru.com, reviewing all the game action. So get involved. Now, you might see it there in the middle of the screen. I'm going to throw it up on the big screen here. That's right. The all-in package that we've talked about, we lowered the price again. Was $159.99 for the $600 product. Now it's down to $99 for the rest of the season. So you get all of our football coverage, which includes NFL and college, all of it. That means you get all the articles, all the rankings, all the projections, all the data, all the Discord channel and access and ability to talk to the hosts, all the live streams that we do, any podcasts that we do. You get access to all of that for football, for seasonal, for DFS, for wagering, for all three of them. $99 the rest of the way. So click the subscribe tab in the top right corner over at fantasyguru.com. You can always send that email to Ted Schuster and the crew over at support@fantasyguru.com. Any questions? You want to do something here? You want to do something there? Support@fantasyguru.com. Remember as well that though we have this great, fantastic deal for you to get involved with football. And look, there's a lot of things that have gone right in fantasy football this year. Maybe things haven't gone well for you in fantasy football. Maybe you have or haven't. Regardless, maybe you want to keep the good times rolling. Maybe you want to change up the way things have gone thus far. Sign up for the all-in package, for football and get all the seasonal DFS wagering coverage. Explore new areas you haven't checked out before. Maybe this will also help you decide whether you want to go all in next year as well, right? Kind of get a taste of what we have to offer. Check that out. Remember as well, we have the MVP plan right now also available. That MVP plan is basically everything that's not football or baseball. And that's a lot of things, okay? That's basketball, hockey, NASCAR, PGA, MMA, horse racing. There's a lot of stuff we cover. Soccer. So check that out, the MVP plan over at fantasyguru.com. You might be wondering, Ray, I don't ever see this. What are you talking about? Well, that's because there's lots of ways to watch or listen to the show. Type in Fantasy Sports Daily wherever you listen to your podcasts, and you should be able to find us there. You can also go to fantasyguru.com. Right at the top of the page there, there's a toolbar, and one of the options you can click on is the Elite Plus. It's got the plus sign, Elite Plus. That takes you to all the podcasts, all the shows on the network, including this one. So you can find all the old shows catalog there. And then there's the 3 places you can watch live or leave comments. In those 3 places that you can do that, it's youtube.com/@ElitePlusNetwork, facebook.com/FantasyGuruHQ, and Twitter X @FantasyGuruSite. You can leave comments and questions that we will address throughout the show. Ethan says, all of my fantasy seasonal teams are falling off a cliff. Angela says, I'm targeting Tyler Algier for a waiver claim. Insane that he's on the waiver wire. Doesn't make any sense. Should not be. Falcons aren't going to be lessening Bijan's workload either. So don't mistake the couple of touchdowns. We'll talk about this game here in a second. Don't mistake the couple of touchdowns that Algier scored yesterday as if he's going to have standalone value. He won't. Not on a weekly basis. He's a flex option at best. Insane that he's on the waiver wire, though. Manny says, my seasonal teams are getting pummeled. Garrett Wilson's the cherry on top of my poo Sunday. I'm going to change the word there to poo. For those of you watching live, you can see it's a different word that Manny used, which is apropos. Obviously, Wilson hurt his knee. He's now caught 3 passes in 2 games. 4 of the first 5 games Garrett Wilson played, he caught 6 balls for 71 yards and a touchdown. His last 2 games, he has 3 catches for 13 yards. So it has not gone well at all. And Angelo said, I started Darnold and still won. We'll talk about that. The Seahawks, 78% of their plays yesterday were runs, which I think is the highest rate since like 2016, something like that, in a long time. They still absolutely dismantled the team from Arizona yesterday. We'll talk about that in a second. All right, let's throw this back up on the screen. Let's change this little thing. And here we go. Our look at Sunday football in Week 10 in the NFL. The Falcons lost to the Colts 25-31. Another game on foreign soil. Another stupid game where the Colts fans were robbed of a home game. Another game for those of you on the West Coast that you probably didn't see because the game starts in the dark and all that kind of stuff. NFL doesn't care. We've talked about that. Let's move on. What we did see is Bijan Robinson, 17 carries for 84 yards, only caught 2 balls for 4 yards. The Falcons offense is, people keep trying to make Michael Penix a thing, and maybe he will become a thing, but it's shades of Tua Tagovailoa, and it's not just the lefty thing. It's the floating passes. It's the uninspiring efforts. I mean, Penix, obviously the Colts are a good team. They're 8-2. Penix was 12 for 28. Like, that's just horrible. It's just horrible. The only guy he could complete passes to was Drake London. Now, we had a drop from Mooney had a couple of drops. Pitts had a drop. So maybe it should have been 15 for 28. That's still not good. So Penix is just limping along. Algier did score twice. As I noted, they'd be very cautious starting Algier. He's not going to eat into the workload of Bijan. Bijan still touched the ball 20 times. He's still going to touch the ball 20 times every week. There will be obviously games where Penix throws more than 28 times. Mooney turned 8 targets into 1 catch. So that's just ain't nothing to see there. London got his touchdown, his 100 yards. Robinson would have been fine if he got in the end zone. He didn't, so disappointing effort for him. When he has under 90 scrimmage yards, that's a disappointing effort for Bijan Robinson. On the other side, the Colts, I mean, look at these numbers with Jonathan Taylor, and this is insane. This is historical stuff. He ran for 244 yards and 3 touchdowns. Okay, and here's the number. Let me read this stuff. 4th game of the year with 3 touchdowns, and his 5th game with 3 touchdowns. What? His 4th game with 3 rushing touchdowns, and his 5th game with 3 touchdowns. That is insane. Remember, yesterday, 32 carries, 244 yards, 3 touchdowns. 228 yards were after contact. That's the most since at least 2017. I think that maybe as far back as they go with the official records. He forced 11 missed tackles and gained 165 extra yards based upon all the fancy metrics. Bottom line, 228 yards after contact. Pure insanity. I mean, he's the MVP of fantasy right now. He's just... Remember last year, he was drafted to be the guy, injuries. He was really good on a per-game basis, but he just didn't play enough. Here we go. Angela asked a question about this game. With when the Falcons are eliminated from playoff contention, why risk a Bijan injury? Because this is the NFL. You don't play like that. You don't play like that. You play every week to win. You play every week as if the game is your last. There's no reason for them to hold back Bijan. Are they going to win next year, Angelo, with this team? Yeah, it's just not the way the NFL goes. Maybe they decide in week 18 to rest them if, they've won 3 games and, the team's, who knows? But no, that's not. The only way they can move the ball effectively offensively is to utilize him. If they don't do that, it doesn't work anyway. So no, too many people worry about this. And it's another problem that we have in the fantasy space. Everyone loves fantasy football. You all love it. You kill yourselves to play. You watch this video, you listen to the podcast, you're subscribing to websites, you're listening to SiriusXM. And then you don't play week 18. I've never understood it. We'll talk more about it when we get there. But Angela, I don't worry about that. If it happens, it happens. But can't play football afraid. As a football player, the teams can't play that way. This is too much a week-to-week game. I would not be worried about that. At least that's my take on it. Back to the Colts. Daniel Jones only had 2 turnovers. Warren had a nice game, 8 catches for 99 yards. Alec Pierce got in the end zone finally, 4 catches for 84 yards. He's getting 4 or 5 catches for 65 yards every game now. Pretty intriguing there. Michael Pittman will obviously have better days. 2 for 19 was an absolute killer in a game where they scored 31 points, but they only threw the ball 26 times in the victory. Carolina defeated the Panthers. Panthers, and Jeff Mann said this on his TikTok video last night. I think that the Panthers are the worst 5-5 team ever. They're so bad. Their passing game is abysmal. Bryce Young has gotten better, okay? And Bryce Young is better than he was at the start of his career. Good for him. He doesn't do anything. He doesn't make spectacular plays. He doesn't even make the normal plays sometimes. They can't extend drives. He's just, and again, part of this is his receiving core, and okay, maybe in a different scenario, and maybe in a couple years, maybe. Yuck. I mean, Tyler Shuck threw for 282 and 2 for the Saints. Bryce Young threw for 124 and 0. I mean, it's just, and he makes bad decisions at times. He floats balls because he doesn't have any arm strength. Panthers stink, and they lost to the Saints at home. That's any hopes the Panthers had making the playoffs. That's out the door, I think, at this point. Alvin Kamara had 22 carries for 83 yards, which is a massive game for him on the ground. 3.8 yards a carry. It's awful. In the receiving game, Juwan Johnson, 4 catches for 92 yards and a touchdown. He had that long touchdown late in the game. Chris Olave with a beautiful, beautiful catch. He had a 62-yard touchdown, 5 for 104 and 1. So those are the only 2 guys that really did anything through the air for this team. They had 196 of the 282 yards from Tyler Shuck. Alvin Kamara caught 3 balls for 32 yards, so he had 25 touches, which is a huge number. He did get 110 scrimmage yards. Okay, so he did something, didn't get in the end zone, so it was a very boring game for him. Taysom Hill played more than anticipated. We talked about this on Friday. I grabbed him in one league because I was hoping for a big effort. Did not get a big effort. He did have 7 carries. He threw a pass. He had a target thrown at. So he was involved but didn't do anything. But they won a game on the road against a team that should have won the football game. The Panthers, again, we talked about this. Wk.10 got in the end zone. That's about it. He still touched the ball. What is it? He had 21 touches, 63 scrimmage yards. Oof. Got in the end zone, so okay. But he clearly has taken over the backfield. Chuba Hubbard barely touched the ball. Ted McMillan led the way. He played through the hamstring injury as was anticipated. And he's got 5 catches for 60 yards, which is about a ceiling game for McMillan in this offense. Yeah, it's bad. And there's not much hope that it's getting better. Now the running game's a little bit of, at least they've settled things with Dowdle being the guy, so we don't have to worry about Hubbard stealing his work at this point. Hubbard is somebody that should be on a roster because, again, Dowdle gets hurt. We're going back to 20 touches for Hubbard. Like, that's what would happen. But Hubbard's obviously not a usable piece at this point. The Giants fell to the Bears 20-24. The Giants, obviously, huge concern here. Jackson Dart tied Cam Newton's NFL record with 7 rushing touchdowns in a career for your first 7 starts. So that's great. He actually had 2 rushing touchdowns on the day. He picked up the concussion. No telling if he's going to play this week. Russell Wilson predictably didn't play very well. The Giants were up 20-10, lost this game in the fourth quarter. Giants fall to 2-8. I don't know how much longer they can leave their head coach in there. Maybe they're just going to go for it, but that's a game they should have won. Again, your quarterback goes out, okay, but Darius Slayton hurt his leg. He had 4 for 89. Didn't get in the end zone like we were hoping he would. We talked about that last week on the Elite Sports Show on Sirius XM. But he still had 4 catches for 89 yards. Had a good game. Theo Johnson, 7 for 75. Great effort for a tight end, but that's the first time he had 40 yards this year, I think. So good game for him. I can't expect that to carry over, though. Wendell Robinson turned 11 targets and 62 yards. Had a horrible drop on a pass from Russell Wilson. Tyrone Tracy retook the backfield lead from Singletary. We all expected it to be Tracy. Then Tracy and Singletary were in this confounding shared backfield. Things changed yesterday. 14 carries for Tracy, only 8 for Singletary. So Tracy's now back in the lead in this backfield as we anticipated. As we talked about when Tracy was up for bad bidding, when Scatterby went down with injury, we warned everyone here on the show to not get overly excited about the Tracy situation. I know a lot of people were giving other advice. Hopefully you listen to our advice because our advice clearly was the correct advice here with the way the backfield's going to go. On the Bears side of things, Kyle Monangai scored a touchdown, but as we said all week last week, as a lot of other people were not saying last week, though, the backfield is DeAndre Swift's. This is not Kyle Monangai taking over the backfield, and it's not even really a shared backfield scenario. Monangai had 7 carries. Swift had 13 carries and 5 catches. So that's 18-7 in terms of the touch count. The only negative here for Swift is Monangai was the guy that got the touchdown. So that's, if you played Swift, that's disappointing. If you played Monangai, at least you got the touchdown, but you didn't, as we talked about, expectations in a lot of areas in the fantasy space were greatly overblown for Monangai. Swift did his thing. Caleb Williams continues to run around and extend plays. And yesterday, his athleticism was on display. He had 63 rushing yards and a touchdown. But, 20 for 36, moderate play until the end. He made some big plays at the end. I'll give him credit for that. And he's got a great arm, and he does extend plays, but he really needs to clean things up. Too many plays, he's just waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting. You get the point. Rome Odunze predictably recovered from his terrible effort last week when he didn't have a catch, as we expected him to do. We talked about this last week on the show too. 6 catches for 86 yards and a touchdown. Luther Burden had 3 catches for 51 yards. Why does that matter? Olamide Zacchaeus dropped a couple of passes yesterday. DJ Moore was hurt yesterday. Luther Burden, we'll have to pay close attention to what we hear today and tomorrow. Luther Burden might be a pickup. For those of you looking to play the waiver wire game, might be a pickup because it might be souring a little bit on OZ, and Moore may not be available to play. We'll have to wait and see. Colson Loveland, 4 for 55. That's about what you should be expecting as a top end with him. He had the 2 touchdown game. I think a lot of people got way too excited there. He's just not a guy. Ethan B said, I wish we could at least see Jameis. The problem with Jameis and Winston instead of Wilson is that, Neighbors is out. Slayton, is he going to play this week? Love to see Slayton with Winston, right? Or even Wilson, to be fair, throwing the deep ball. But there's no one to catch passes on this team. Like, who's Winston going to throw the ball to? Wendell Robinson's 5'8". He's their only, Olszewski, come on. They have nobody to throw the ball to, so it doesn't really matter at this point, which is why Dart's athleticism and ability to run the ball is so important to the success they're having on offense. You know who sucks? I made the Panthers, right? And the Bills suck, and we'll talk about them in a few minutes. The Jaguars are terrible. The Texans, with a backup quarterback, Davis Mills, had their second largest comeback victory in team history. They were down by 19 points. This game was 20-3 in the first half. 20-3. And if I'm not mistaken, I don't think Trevor Lawrence had a single passing yard in the fourth quarter yesterday. I don't think he had any. I think it was 0. Panthers lose a game. They were up by 19. They lose a game where they were up by 17 in the second quarter. Trevor Lawrence, technically, it looked like an interception. They called it a fumble, but a fumble 6 at the end of the game into Rankin's arms, who he grabbed and ran 32 yards for a touchdown. Theoretically, they could have still kicked a field goal to, win the game. Didn't do that. Texans win 36-29. Again, this team is just, it's awful. I know they're 5-4 and theoretically in the playoff hunt, but they're just a terrible team. Too often they get out to a lead and they sit on their hands in the second half, and it just doesn't happen. Travis Etienne got in the end zone. Didn't do much. Had 75 yards from scrimmage. It was a fine effort there. We talked about Lawrence, 158 yards and a touchdown and a pick. I also had that fumble 6. He didn't do anything. Jacoby Myers had a touchdown that was called back on a penalty. Then Parker Washington ended up scoring a touchdown. So Washington had 3 for 33 in a score. So if you use Washington, you got that touchdown. If it gone just a little bit different way, if they hadn't called a penalty on a teammate, Jacoby Myers would have had the touchdown, and Parker Washington would have had 2 catches for 20 yards and no touchdowns. So Washington did have a kick return touchdown, 73-yard punt return, so he did that. But this team had nothing going for it. Brian Thomas didn't play. Jacoby Myers wasn't up to speed yet because he just didn't know the playbook. Just a terrible game. Terrible game for this team. On the other side, Davis Mills, credit to Davis Mills. He played a pretty good game. Almost threw for 300 yards, 2 touchdown passes. Had the rushing touchdown late where he dove into the corner of the end zone. Really strong effort there. He peppered Nico Collins with 15 targets, which he turned into 7 for 136. Higgins scored a touchdown. Schultz scored a touchdown. Schultz had 7 catches if you utilized him. Noel had 4 targets and 4 catches. Christian Kirk only had 3 targets. So maybe they're starting to phase out the veteran in favor of Noel, the youngster, because of the game situation, because they were down 20-3. Nick Chubb only touched the ball 6 times. He only touched the ball 6 times. So don't get nuts with Marks thinking, oh my God, he's taking over the backfield. He did have 14 carries and 2 receptions yesterday. Did get in the end zone. But remember, this game was 20-3 in the second quarter. So the Texans had to abandon their let's run the ball and move the chains that way approach. So Marks did see a lot of extra work because of that. Buffalo falls to 6-3, losing on the road to the Miami Dolphins 30-13. And it was a 17-point win for the Dolphins, obviously. if you watch the game, it almost felt like they won by more than that. The Bills stunk. Just stunk. 2 touchdown passes in the fourth quarter for Josh Allen allowed him to go for 306 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a pick. He threw an end zone interception as well. Ran for 31 yards, had a fumble on one of the. He was running in the field, grabbed him, another defender. It was a great run. He was dragging the defender down, fumbled the ball. So he had 306 and 2 with an interception and a fumble. This team is really struggling to pass the ball on a consistent basis. Touchdowns to Coleman and Hawes. Big key here was the loss of Dalton Kincaid. He didn't even play. I think he played 18 snaps yesterday when he hurt his hamstring. They desperately needed his ability to help attack the defense of the Dolphins. He wasn't out in the field, so we saw Hawes get in the end zone. He only had 2 targets. We saw him get in the end zone. Dawson Knox had 4 targets, caught 3 of them. We would have seen a much better game, I would assume, for the offense if Kincaid had been out there, and he might have had a big game. But it just wasn't the way it was. So we'll have to see if he's even going to be able to play the next game. Shakir did his normal thing, 758. Coleman did his normal thing, 3 catches, 46 yards. Did get in the end zone, so there was something there. James Cook had 5 catches, which is nice. But he had 18 touches for 76 yards and didn't get in the end zone. So a very moderate game for him. Again, it was very much like Bijan Robinson, right? A moderate game. But the bottom line is the Bills are just not playing good football right now. They should have beat the Dolphins. I think they double digit. I don't. What's the number? They were at least a 7-point favorite. It might have been double point digit favorite. I don't remember, but they were certainly like a 7-point favorite plus on the road. Should have won this game, no doubt about it. And they had nothing. I mean, it was 16-0 at halftime. I mean, they didn't. It was. They didn't score their first points until 12 minutes left in the third quarter. I mean, the fourth quarter. Excuse me. They didn't even score until the fourth quarter. The Bills. Like this game was bad. They just could not get their offense on track. On the Dolphins side of thing, and you see Angelo there commenting on it. Yeah, Angelo, Achane got you 40 points. He was the offense. And last week, if you missed it on the SiriusXM show, again, it's Elite Sports, Monday through Friday, 2 to 5 p.m. Eastern on SiriusXM. Jeff Mans, Ted Schuster, we're talking on Fridays. They always do about the Core 4, the DFS game. And again, remember, you can click the subscribe tab in the top right corner. Send an email to support@fantasyguru.com. You get the football package right now. You get that football package, $99 the rest of the way. Includes DFS, includes seasonal, includes betting for NFL and college football, all of it for one low price. They were talking on the Friday show about putting their team together, and Jeff basically said, and he wrote about this too in the Cash Game Breakdown, that Achane's basically Christian McCaffrey with the lower price and the less ownership. And he's right about that. And yesterday, boy, did it pay off. Achane had 174 yards and 2 touchdowns. He scored 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter, a 59-yarder, a 35-yarder. He caught 6 balls for 51 yards. He had 11 forced missed tackles, a massive number matching what Jonathan Taylor did. Just a huge game for Devon Achane. Just massive. In terms of the offense, Tua Tagovailoa, he's just not good. I don't know. He's just not good. The fact of the matter is all he did yesterday was huck deep balls up to Jalen Waddle. Waddle caught 5 for 84 and a touchdown. Malik Washington didn't do anything. He had 2 catches for 9 yards, but he also got in the end zone. But Tua Tagovailoa basically was just chucking up deep balls to Waddle. 2 of them were picks, not even close. I'm stunned by how long it takes Tua Tagovailoa to throw a 40-yard pass. I am stunned at how much it looks like he has to get his entire body into a 40-yard pass. But hey, Waddle got his. Achane got his. They're about the only 2 guys you can trust in this offense. But I think everyone knew that coming in. All right, let's move on to the next game here. Baltimore and Minnesota. The Ravens won the football game, and here come the Ravens. We talked about them on the show, and they were 1-5, and it's like, is this season over? Are they in trouble? Is this the end of it? They're now 4-5. They've won 3 consecutive games. They beat the Minnesota Vikings 27-19. Let's start on the Ravens side of things here for a second. Derrick Henry, 20 carries for 75 yards. Also had 3 catches, only for 9 yards. The interesting thing is the 1-yard touchdown run went to Justice Hill. That's probably the biggest stunner of this game. The 1-yard touchdown run didn't go to Derrick Henry. It went to Justice Hill. Okay. Thanks, Ravens. Thanks. Lamar Jackson had 176 yards, 1 touchdown, ran for 36 yards. He didn't do anything. Rashad Bateman had a catch for 10 yards. He's in a walking boot, so his availability moving forward is uncertain. Mark Andrews had 3 catches for 14 yards and a touchdown. We talk about Andrews. He got in the end zone. By the way, I see Godfrey's 81 here say the guy in one of my leagues has 3 tight ends and 3 quarterbacks in a 10-team league. That is really stupid, as you're aware. He keeps trying to trade me guys like Mark Andrews for DeAndre Swift. I wish I could just turn off trade requests. Well, the good news is that Andrews scored a touchdown and Swift didn't. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, there are people that, and this is why we talk all the time about building a roster correctly, because when this person in your league, in a 10-team league, having 3 tight ends is moronic. Having 3 quarterbacks is plain effing stupid. Having both is, you might as well just give up. You've lost. It's over, right? And the person on the other side of this knows that. They're just going to have to drop Mark Andrews. I mean, that's clearly an issue. They have to drop their other tight end, but they don't want to do it because they don't want to give away players that other people can utilize. Well, it's a 10-team league. That's what you got to do. But yeah, Mark Andrews, 3 catches, 14 yards, and a touchdown. They lost him in the back of the end zone. He made a nice catch. Isaiah Likely actually had a season-high 5 targets, only caught 2 balls for 17 yards. Kohler was involved, as he always is. Zay Flowers had his 4 catches for 75 yards. This passing attack is boring, and there's no consistency to it other than Zay Flowers is going to get you 10 PPR points. That's all every week. It's going to be 10 to 14 PPR points, almost certainty with Zay Flowers. The rest of the team, it's like, very uninspiring offensive effort, but the defense has come to play. They've held 4 straight opponents under 20 yards, have the Ravens. They have 8 turnovers forced in the last 4 games. They're up to 4-5, and they're the odds-on favorites to win the division, according to the betting market. All right, let's move on to the Viking side of things. And J.J. McCarthy is a rookie quarterback. I know he's not because he was drafted last year, but in experiential-wise, obviously he is. He tries really hard, but he just doesn't have it right now. Now, again, we're talking about a guy that's played a handful of NFL football games. That to be expected. He has 0 chemistry, none, 0, zilch, nada, zip, nothing with Justin Jefferson. None. No chemistry. About the only guy he has chemistry with is Naylor, who had 5 catches for 124 yards and a touchdown yesterday. Even with Jordan Addison, it's like, But it really does seem like Naylor and Addison have a better chemistry than McCarthy. Now, I'll give McCarthy full credit for the following. I say all the time, if you've got a guy like Jefferson, what do? You throw him the football. He threw the ball 12 times to him yesterday. Now, he was flinging up balls into double coverage. He was making terrible reads. He was making poor decisions. But he threw 12 passes to Jefferson. So at least we're trying here. But this is getting concerning, not just for Jefferson owners, but for the Vikings' entire offense. They fall to 4-5 with this loss. Hawkinson had 2 targets, 2 catches, 8 yards. Hawkinson is not part of this offense. He catches 2 or 3 passes for 20 yards each week. Naylor, if Naylor's your leading receiver, you're not winning football games. Nice football player. Made a really couple nice catches yesterday, including that touchdown. It was a really nice catch. But, Jefferson and Addison had 23 targets, and they caught 7 balls for 72 yards. That's just terrible. Just terrible. McCarthy did run for 48 yards, so that's a positive, but didn't look good. The Vikings are in no man's land right now. They've got no choice but to keep starting McCarthy, but they got to figure this out in quick or they're going to miss the playoffs. And that certainly was not the expectations for the Vikings heading into the season. The Jets beat the Browns 27-20, and this one was just, weather was kind of spotty and the play was spotty, and it just was just a bad game. Just a bad game. The Browns, Quinshon Judkins was fine. That's the good news. The rookie running back had 22 carries. He had a couple of catches. He only had 85 scrimmage yards, which given all the work is disappointing, but 85 scrimmage yards a week is a pretty good effort, especially in this offense. Not getting in the end zone is obviously a negative there for him. Dylan Gabriel threw for 2 scores. He ran for 54 yards. I think he had 31 of those yards on back-to-back plays. He just dropped back in the Jets. There was no one in the middle of the field, so he had 31 yards on back-to-back plays. But he is severely limited. He just is. After the game, Stefanski said, we're going to coach him up. We're not going to make a quarterback change. We're not going to Shedeur Sanders. Okay, so we know that. But Gabriel there's no statistical upside here for him. And unfortunately, he's just not able to consistently produce numbers for any of his receivers. It's shocking to see Jerry Jeudy catch 6 balls for 78 yards and a touchdown yesterday. I'm sure the return of Chris Tillman, who had 2 catches for 11 yards. The return of Tillman at least gave the Jets something to think about, right? So that helped Jeudy. But 12 targets, 6 catches, 78 yards, a touchdown. None of that has happened for Jeudy all season long, right? Like that's not who Jeudy has been, regardless of who the quarterback has been. So let's not get way ahead of ourselves. We'll obviously analyze the match, but I don't think Judy's on the waiver wire in most leagues. If he is, the bidding's probably going to be pretty fierce for a guy that had 20 PPR points yesterday. It shouldn't be, but it probably will be. Judy's still very much just a guy and not somebody that you could be trusting despite the strong effort yesterday. Fannin had 7 targets, 4 catches for 44 yards. He is established. He's kind of the safety blanket, I think it's fair to say, of Gabriel. 7 targets, 4 catches. That's where he's been. Like, that's very reasonable to continue moving forward. Unfortunately for Fannin, Njoku is the one that scored the touchdown. He only saw 2 targets, but Njoku got in the end zone, 2 for 21 on the score. So if you used Njoku, you got a little bit of a payoff there as well. And again, Tillman was back. Lots of questions about Tillman. Tillman, in theory, is a weekly starter in fantasy. In this offense with this quarterback, he's barely rosterable. On the Jets side of things, I mean, it can't get much worse for a team that wins a football game, right? We talked about this. Justin Fields was not named the starter until very late in the week, despite leading his team to a victory and 500 yards of offense in the previous game. I don't really know what the direction of this team is. They traded players away. They didn't trade certain players. What we do know is we saw yet again Breece Hall is a star in this league. This is why you should always play Breece Hall. It's why Breece Hall is always a top 15 running back in the rankings at fantasyguru.com. He had a receiving touchdown, 42-yarder where Fields took a hit, dumped the ball off, and Hall ran very fast. He also had 21 carries for 83 yards, and that was the offense. That was literally the offense. Now, this is a very difficult matchup against the Browns in not bad weather, but poor weather. So those are 2 hugely limiting factors to the Jets and their offense. At the same time, I mean, Garrett Wilson, as we talked about earlier today already, hurt his knee. We're already hearing reports. It's unclear if he's going to play this week. They got nothing. Adonai Mitchell should be active this week. That should at least in theory help to stretch the defense a little bit with his ability to catch a deep ball. I think he's got like a 14.5 yards per catch mark for his career. But this offense has no weapons. This offense has no consistent passing attack. They might go to Tyrod Taylor. In fact, they probably do, I would assume. Now, again, I don't know how you really sell that. The Jets won the game, right? Week before that, they had 500 yards offense, but you're going to switch from Fields. Okay. I could see him doing it because they won't commit to Justin Fields. They blame Justin Fields as if it's his fault that this team has no pass catchers or an offensive line that can help. But again, difficult matchup. They won a football game, so kudos to them. Both teams at 2-7 right now. But that Jets, I mean, Justin Fields. The real question is, if you're in a super flex league, can Justin Fields be started at this point? Shouldn't be a question, but it absolutely is a question at this point. Next up, Patriots defeated the Buccaneers 28-23. Patriots moved to 8-2. The Bucs fall to 6-3. Drake May, made a couple mistakes yesterday. Threw an interception. Wasn't as sharp as normal. 16 for 31. There was weather there, rain, okay, some wind. But 16 for 31, that's way off his normal 70+% completion pace. But he threw for 270 and 2, so he was fine from a fantasy perspective. The big storyline, obviously, was that Jennings hurt his knee. Ramondre Stevenson was already out of the game. So Trevion Henderson finally exploded. 17 carries, 147 yards, and 2 touchdowns. He also caught a 3-yard pass. He had a 69-yard touchdown, right? Let me look at this. 55-yard touchdown and a 69-yard touchdown. So his whole game was 2 plays, but he burst through the hole. He showed his speed. He did get rolled up on when Drake May was running to the sidelines, and it looked like he really hurt his leg. He was able to return to action and had one of those long touchdowns. So seems like he's fine, but that's something to keep an eye on. He might wake up really sore today, Trevion Henderson. But the big game there, the real question now becomes, when Stevenson is healthy, what do they do? Right? Because everyone knows the game that we saw yesterday from Henderson is a potential outcome for him. Everyone knows that between Jennings, Stevenson, and Henderson is the guy with the big upper end, let's blow a game open speed and ability to do what he did yesterday. But they have not shown a willingness to feature Henderson. Yesterday, they had no choice because, again, Jennings got hurt his knee early, barely played. Stevenson was out. He still only had 15 touches. It's like, So I hope that you added Henderson because a lot of people I know dropped him. I hope if you had him, you held on to him. Hopefully you started him yesterday, but still very unclear if he's going to be a weekly top 20 running back, how the Patriots are going to play this in the backfield. On the Buccaneer side of things, I already got a question this morning. It's really interesting. Tez Johnson, 4 catches, 42 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Strong effort. 2 touchdowns make it a great effort, but 42 yards, 5 targets. Let's not get ahead of ourselves because he had 2 touchdowns. Mike Evans is coming back at some point. I assume Chris Godwin will come back at some point. Maybe not. I don't know. It's turn into a Ricky Pearsall situation where they don't put a guy on an injured list and he just doesn't play. But yeah, let's not get overly excited about Tez Johnson. 25 targets went to Wk.10 and Otten. Only 5 went to Tez Johnson. So he's got in the end zone twice, but I think Otten is the guy, obviously, that has stepped forward here. 9 catches for 82 yards. He has been the big recipient on a consistent basis, catching 4 or 5 passes every game since the injuries happened to the Bucs. Big effort yesterday. Wk 6 for 115 and a touchdown with an even bigger fantasy effort. In the backfield, Tucker and White basically, they're one touch apart difference on the ground. White still caught 5 passes. White still dominated the snap count, even though the yardage count was very similar. Is Bucky Irving ever going to play again? I don't know what's going on with Bucky Irving. We talked about this last week. He was eligible to return and didn't after the bye. I don't know. We'll see. So that team, they're 6-3 and they're in good spot, but they lost to a Patriots team that they're for real. Like there was questions even a couple weeks ago with the Patriots. They're for real. They got a good thing going there in New England, and led by Drake May. It's obviously popping off. By the way, Matt Collins had 6 catches for 106 yards. The rookie Williams had 1 catch. It was a touchdown. Stephon Diggs 5 for 46 and a touchdown. Don't get excited about Matt Collins. Great effort for Matt Collins. Matt Collins is a great football player, but he's certainly not going to be seeing 10 targets ever again. He obviously had to step up with the Boutte injury to the hamstring that caused him not to play yesterday. But I'd be surprised if he ever had 10 targets in the rest of his Patriots career or 100 yards. Great game. Don't pay the price to get it. Seattle defeated Arizona 44-22. And, this game was 35-0 in the second quarter. Literally halfway through the second quarter, it was 35-0. What happened is that twice the following happened. Not once, but twice. Trice Knight caused 2 fumbles from Jacoby Brissett. Brissett was in the pocket, taking his arm back, getting ready to throw the ball, and before he could start that forward motion, the ball was knocked out of his hand twice by Knight. Both times it came out of Knight's hands. Both times it went to DeMarcus Lawrence. And both times the fumble that was caused by Knight that went into the arms of DeMarcus Lawrence got returned for a touchdown. A 34-yard fumble return and a 22-yard fumble return. It's impossible. Yet it happened. 35-0 halfway through the second quarter. The game was over. Seattle threw the ball 12 times yesterday. They ran the ball 78% of their snaps, as we talked about earlier on the show. Just astounding that they could throw the ball 12 times and score 44 points. Obviously, the defense helped a ton. Thank goodness Jackson Smith-Njigba, who left for a head injury check, was still able to catch 5 balls for 93 yards and a touchdown, which for him is a little bit of a low effort, but still obviously great because they only threw the ball again 12 times. He had a 50% target share. He was the only game in town as a pass catcher. Seattle, Sark Charbonnet scored a touchdown. Holani scored a touchdown. Kenneth Walker, of course, didn't score a touchdown. Jeff Mans was, we've all talked about this. Seattle is 7-2. They've got a great defense. They're winning games. Things are working. They're not going to change what they're doing. Holani obviously had 7 carries yesterday, I think, because of the game situation, but still, this is just what it is. And it's really disappointing the way that the Seattle team is utilizing their backfield on an individual basis. On a team-wide basis, they're having success doing what they're doing. Charbonnet had 14 carries. Walker had 14 carries. Is what it is there. Rashid Shaheed had a catch, had a couple of carries. Can't take a lot away from what happened on offense yesterday, especially from the passing attack, because, again, it's 35-0 in the second quarter. Going back to the Cardinals here, Jacoby Brissett, 2 for 258 and 2. Okay, that's great. Did have those 2 fumble sixes, which is not great. The positive news here is that he threw the ball 44 times. 25 of those balls went to McBride, who had 13 targets, and 12 went to Harrison. Harrison got in the end zone. Luckily, he almost had a second touchdown, but he got in the end zone. Only had 3 catches for 33 yards, but had a touchdown, so it was an okay effort. Trey McBride, 9 catches for 127 yards and a touchdown. He's basically scoring a touchdown every game that Brissett is quarterbacking his team. Unlike what we saw with Kyler Murray, which is, I think, one of the big reasons why they made the change and why they let Kyler go on the injured list with an injury, air quotes, as he even hurt. Brissett threw 44 passes, 25 of them, which is way more than half, went to 2 guys. We don't need to mess around throwing the ball to Greg Dortch and Zay Jones, whose season's likely over with the Achilles injury. It's the 2 guys. In terms of the backfield, Knight hurt his shoulder, so we'll have to see how that plays out. DeMarcado, I mean, we all remember the drop ball at the goal line before he went in the end zone, but he had 7 touches for 104 yards. He's been really explosive. He's clearly the most explosive running back they have. They haven't given him big workloads. They're using him and Carter and Knight, and I don't think they really have an answer. Maybe Trey Benson will come back and save us all this week. He is eligible to return from the ankle issue. We shall see. David P. says, what do you do if you have Walker and Charbonnet? I think that I'm still starting Walker over Charbonnet. I would like to, if possible, avoid using both of them. It all depends upon what else you got, really, David, in the backfield. I would say it this way too, that we can only, we can lead you to the water, right? But the team has got to do what they should be doing, and they haven't done it for the majority of the season. We've talked about it in articles. Jeff has talked about it on his show. I've talked about it here. Walker's a better fit for the offense. He's a more explosive player for the offense. It's obvious. It's clear. Your eyeballs tell you it. The numbers tell you it. The data tells you it. And it's just not what they're doing, right? So you did the right thing to handcuff the guys. You got involved in the running game that's successful. You did the right thing there. You can't look at Kenneth Walker like we had hoped 3 months ago. He was going to be running back 8 this year. We're now going to have to hope he's running back 18. It's just the way it is. Very difficult to start them both, though. So I would still be planning to start Walker, though. Charbonnet's goal line usage. I mean, here's the thing. Charbonnet, 83 yards yesterday is not the norm for him. Charbonnet's going to run for 48 yards. If he gets in the end zone, you're fine. If he doesn't get in the end zone, it's 7 points. Walker, anytime he touches the ball, is a threat to go 65 yards for a touchdown, like literally every time he touches the ball. So what's going to happen is we're going to go Charbonnet, and then Walker's going to have the 17-carry, 138-yard, 2-touchdown game that Charbonnet simply can't have, right? But it is a difficult scenario, David, unfortunately. You're not the only person dealing with that right now. The Rams defeated the Niners 42-26. Did the ball just get fired? According to Greg, the ball just got fired. We were talking about that earlier. Here, by the way, I'm looking at some news reports here since that got... okay, here, Aaron Glenn opened up the Monday press conference for the Jets saying, please don't ask me about the quarterbacks. No wonder that team sucks. Bucky Irving, head coach Todd Bowles said there is no timetable for him to return from his shoulder injury. Okay, great news. And then Brian DeBall in news here. Let's see what we got. Yeah, he is. Apparently he's been fired. Well, there you go. They were listening to this show. They heard Fantasy Sports Daily, powered by FantasyGuru.com, and said, we agree with Ray, and they made the move. The Rams defeated the Niners 42-26. A lot of back and forth about this Rams backfield, and let's just be very clear about this. Everyone's saying timeshare, everyone's sharing shared backfield, all this stuff with Blake Corum and Kyron Williams. I don't see it that way. I don't think you should see it that way. When a team has a 20-point advantage over their opponent, you're going to use your backup running back. Kyron Williams still had 14 carries. He still had 2 receptions. That's still 16 touches. Still got in the end zone twice. Blake Corum does what Blake Corum has been doing. He's been very effective. 10, 12 carries, 48 to 58 rushing yards, and nothing from a fantasy perspective. So, I mean, what this really is Corum's doing enough to limit the high-end performances from Kyron Williams. Not doing enough to be a weekly play. I don't know why everyone's getting so excited about Blake Corum. He's giving you 6 points every week. He's not involved in the passing game, and he's not getting goal line work. So, but Kyron Williams got in the end zone twice. Adams scored. Nakua scored. Matthew Stafford tied the NFL record, or maybe Peyton Manning's the only one that's had a longer streak. 4 touchdowns, no picks in 3 consecutive games. He had 4 yesterday. The Rams have Puka Nacua, Adams. These guys had fine games yesterday. They only played like half the snaps. Adams hurt his back late. We'll have to keep an eye on that. Nacua is coming back from the chest injury. Again, at one point it was 42-20. Like this game was, at one point earlier it was 21-7. I mean, it's 21-0 at one point. The Rams were up 21-0 at the start of the second quarter, basically, like a minute and a half in. This game was over already, right? Niners were going to come back from 21 points down. So we saw more Corum than normal. We saw less Nacua and less Adams than normal in terms of snap share. And we saw Parkinson, Ferguson, Allen, and Higbee. We saw the Rams run 13 personnel, I think, on like 40% of their snaps, meaning that they ran 3 tight end sets like 40% of the time. Disastrous. You can't use any of their tight ends. But with the way this offense is basically Adams and Nacua, and that's it, with the way the quarterback is playing, we're totally happy with what we're seeing there. On the other side, Brian Robinson, Brian Robinson has a better yards after contact mark this season than Christian McCaffrey. Like it's a full yard better. He had the rushing touchdown yesterday. He had 5.1 yards of carry yesterday. McCaffrey, 2.5. Another McCaffrey rushing attack effort that was in the toilet. Didn't matter from a PPR perspective, 8 for 66, so he still was fine. But Robinson, metric-wise, has been a better running back this year than Christian McCaffrey, which is really interesting to say. Mac Jones, 319-3. He played a solid game. I think Purdy starts the next game for the Niners. That's basically what Kyle Shanahan said after the game. Again, he was supposed to be fine. He wasn't put on the injury list. He's now missed 6 games. Same with Ricky Pearsall. He was not supposed to miss 4 games. They didn't put him on the IR. He's missed 6 games. Still no idea when he's coming back. Kittle had a beautiful touchdown. If you didn't see it, go watch the highlights of Kittle. He had 9 for 94 in a score. Jawan Jennings had 6 for 71 in a score himself. He also had a fumble, right? Yeah, he lost a fumble. But both those guys coming through as the Niners kind of all of a sudden start to get that pointy peak there for their offense as well, not spreading the ball around as much as they have in the past. If Pearsall's back, if Ayuk is back, the Niners are 6-4 and can still make the playoffs here. They've got a ton of injuries, though, on both sides of the ball. It's rather shocking they're 6-4 right now. They should take that, obviously, with the way things have gone. Kendrick Bourne, who was a thing at one point, is no longer a thing. You kind of know what we got right now with the Niners. The Lions defeated 44-22 is the score of the week. Lions defeated the Commanders. The big storyline here is that the play caller for the Lions became Dan Campbell. Apparently, I think the Lions were averaging like 28 points a game coming in or something, like pretty good, right? But anyway, he took over. They scored 44 points. Now they beat a team that they clearly outclassed. 320-3 for Goff. Strong effort there. Touchdowns for Jamison Williams, who had one of his best games in recent memory. 6 for 119 and a touchdown. Amon-Ra St. Brown didn't do anything, but he got in the end zone. Gibbs got in the end zone as a pass catcher once, as a runner twice with a massive game. He had 170-plus yards of scrimmage with 3 touchdowns. He and David Montgomery equal touches on the ground, 15 apiece. Montgomery did not get into the end zone. This will be an interesting thing to watch. Does Campbell want Gibbs and Montgomery to be more of a 50-50 carry split? That's the way it's been in the past. But this season, we've seen a lot more Gibbs on the ground than we've seen Montgomery. Campbell takes over as the play caller, 15 carries for Gibbs, 15 carries for Montgomery. Something to think about moving forward. On the other side of things, we heard that Jayden Daniels' season is probably not over. He could return this year. We don't know for a fact that's the case, but there is some hope that he's going to avoid surgery and maybe play again this year. Mariota went for 200 yards and 2 touchdowns. He ran for 22 yards. He was fine. He's very much what you would expect from Marcus Mariota. The passing attack, Treylon Burks led this team, in receiving yards. Things have gotten rough for the Commanders. Zach Ertz, 4 for 54, was the leading receiver, though, for the team overall, though Deebo Samuel had 4 for 29 and a touchdown. The story on the ground is that JCM lost the touchdown to Rodriguez. Rodriguez hurt his shoulder late, so they kind of ended up going back to JCM. JCM with another game doing absolutely nothing. JCM, McNichols, and Rodriguez all being utilized, all in the field. 3 guys being utilized in the backfield is not a good scenario. The Commanders don't have a lead running back. It will be simplified if Rodriguez's shoulder is an issue and he's not able to play, obviously, but still, it's just not happening right now for this team on the ground at all. And then finally, one more game. The Steelers lost to the Chargers 25-10. The Steelers looked awful. They fell to 5-4. They had a late touchdown that had been absolutely nothing with under 3 minutes left. This game was a beat down by the Chargers. They were in control virtually the entire game. I did find it really hilarious that it was 5-3 halfway through the second quarter. 5-3, yeah. There was a safety involved there. Aaron Rodgers did nothing. 161, a touchdown and 2 picks. Did not look good. Barely completed half his passes, made bad decisions and bad throws. That's as bad as Aaron Rodgers looks. Like, that was a bad effort. The trickle down in the passing attack was that Roman Wilson scored with 3 minutes left in the game. Who cares? It didn't mean anything to anybody. No one's playing Roman Wilson. It didn't mean anything to the game. It didn't mean anything to Rodgers, all that. But at least he got in the end zone. 2 catches for 35 yards. DK Metcalf led the way with 7 targets. He was tied with Calvin Austin. Austin had 2 catches for 14 yards. Metcalf 3 for 35. This is, I don't know. I mean, things started out really well for the Steelers. DK Metcalf got his $160 million. Maybe he's happy with that. But this is just not, DK Metcalf needs to get into the end zone each week, or he's just doing nothing for you. There's no volume here. There's no consistent connection here with Aaron Rodgers. It's usually 3 to 5 catches for 40 to 60 yards. Like, there's just nothing here. Like, where are the 8-catch, 110-yard games? Where are they? They're just not in this offense. Why? Because we're throwing the ball too much to the damn tight end. Freiermuth had 3 more targets. Washington had a target. Smith had a couple of targets. They want to use 4. They got Hayward as well. They utilize in the, like, Steelers offense is just not good. And it's a very unappealing place to be in fantasy. Even, Jaylen Warren dominated the touch count and dominated the snap count out of the backfield for the Steelers yesterday. He still had, 16 touches for 90 yards, no touchdown. On the Charger side of things, everyone wanted to get rid of Kamani Vidal. Hopefully he didn't do that. 26 touches yesterday. Patterson only, I think, saw 4 snaps on the game. Vidal had over 100 yards from scrimmage, got in the end zone. Herbert just got rid of the ball so he wouldn't get smashed against that Steelers defense. So he didn't do much, 220 yards and a touchdown. McConkey had a 15-yard touchdown grab right at the end of the first half. He had 4 catches for 107 and a score. Johnston, 5 for 42. Keenan Allen's banished from this offense. Really disappointing. 2 for 19. The big news might be Oronde Gadsden, though, who had 3 catches for 13 yards. He got injured yesterday. We're waiting news and updates. Updates here to see what's going to happen with Gadsden. Is he going to miss games? Is something going on? Bated breath, as they say, with Gadsden, because obviously he's been a star in the making at the tight end position, helping the Chargers out and obviously being a big winner and a booster in the fantasy space. Godfrey's 81 said, in the 12-team keeper league, was able to turn CMC and Troy Franklin into Breece Hall and Rome Odunze. I know trading for the same position isn't ideal. Hey, look, I don't know keeper rules and all that kind of stuff, but Hall versus CMC, pretty even. I'd rather have Odunze than Franklin. So, yeah, I think that was a fine trade to make. Got younger at the running back position in particular. I don't mind that at all. Let's see here. Angela says, too bad Russell Wilson can't be fired. Well, he's been fired. They've technically fired him already. It's not his fault. The team's not very good. I think that's it too. David P said, which Niner receiver do you like best? Well, they only have one Niner receiver right now. It's Jennings. So the answer to the question is Jennings. People keep asking about Ayuk. They keep asking about Pearsall. I don't know when either one of those guys is going to play. I have no idea what they're going to look like when they do play. Are they the version we expect them to be? Are they half a version of what we expect them to be? Is there anything to see here? I have no idea. I really have no idea. So the answer is Jennings to your question, David. Mark P says, I know this sounds silly, but I don't draft players whose names have initials, DJ, AJ, DK, CJ. That's just a personal trait about naming yourself letters that I think translates to frustration. I would never avoid players because of initials. I think it's really frustrating to write. Some guys are initials and you have to put, D, comma, or D dot K dot, right? Some guys are just DK, right? So it's frustrating from an analyst perspective having to write it. I would not avoid players because of initials like that, but hey, if it works for you, it works for you. Alejandro says, I know it's a defensive question and I hate asking, but I just wanted to set it and forget it. Is it Philadelphia D or Green Bay D? I don't think we should really be setting or forgetting defenses. That's not how I would anticipate playing it. Looking at the situation for both those teams have obviously already had their bye. It's really tough to do a full analyzation here, Alejandro, on the show because again, I'm not looking at playoff weeks or anything like that. Green Bay is on the road at Denver, Chicago, and Baltimore. That doesn't look great for the defense. Who is the other one? Philadelphia. Philadelphia's playoff schedule. The Raiders, that's a good one. The Commanders, likely a good one. Buffalo, I'd probably lean Philadelphia. But Philadelphia's definitely got a more difficult schedule. Dallas, Detroit, Chicago. Let's go Green Bay. We got to go Green Bay here, looking at the schedule here. But again, that's the answer I'm giving here in seconds. That's not an answer that I would 100% aspire to be quite honest like that. And RF is pro initials. Yeah, it should be SRF actually. First name Stanley. Oh, sorry for this week only. I haven't. Oh, you mean just for tonight? Oh, well, that's totally different. Yeah, that would have been helpful to know. The rankings over at fantasyguru.com had the Green Bay Packers one spot ahead of the Philadelphia Eagles. So there is your question answered, Angelo. All right, everybody. Thanks for being part of what we do here. Again, remember, it's 12 o'clock Eastern. We go about an hour each day, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I'm here Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. Wednesdays, I'm on Elite Sports on SiriusXM with Jeff Manns, 2 to 5 Eastern, Monday through Friday for Jeff. I'm there with him Wednesday. The other 4 days I am here. Tomorrow it'll be me and Armando Marsal. Wednesdays, Justin Fensterman and Rich Mileto. Thursdays, me and Tyler Beaker. Friday is me and Russell Clay. So that's kind of the schedule the rest of the week. Go to fantasyguru.com. Get signed up for any of the packages that we have. Remember, the MVP plan is available right now. We are rocking and rolling with all kinds of coverage for hockey and basketball in particular. But the MVP plan also includes MMA, PGA, NASCAR, horse racing. All the sports we cover that aren't baseball and football are in that MVP plan. And then remember, the all-in football package for the rest of the season is now available at a discounted rate of $99.99. Huge discount there. Get involved. You get all the college and NFL football the rest of the season for seasonal betting and DFS. All 3 zones, both college and professional, one price, $99.99 the rest of the way. Click the subscribe tab in the top right corner or send an email to support@fantasyguru.com. We'll be back tomorrow at 12 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Me and Armando Marsal here on the show. Enjoy that Philadelphia Green Bay game tonight. And don't forget to go to SiriusXM in about an hour and listen to that Jeff Manns recap of the just completed Week 10 from 2 to 5 p.m. Eastern on the Elite Sports Show. We'll talk to you tomorrow here on Fantasy Sports Daily, powered by fantasyguru.com.